All right. This is going to be I don't know what we're going to do, but we'll see. So let's open a terminal up. Here we go. We're going to see if we can do a little upgrade here. I'm going to pull down. I don't know. I don't think I've ever done an upgrade all by myself before. I've always watched other people do it. Here we go. I'll name it. I'll name our TMUX after you. All right. So let me open StreamYard in another. Here we go. Here we go. Just so I can have a thing to do the bubbles. Because you know how I like my bubbles, right, Staccato?
Exactly.
You know I like to do this, right?
I do.
Let's upgrade TKG 2.3. It's too bad that the viewers weren't here for our conversation earlier, huh?
Exactly. What can you do?
They missed out, Scott.
What happens backstage stays backstage.
Oh, can I do? Yeah, there we go. All right, cool. Oh, now I can do bubbles here.
Whoa.
Yeah.
You found a new way of doing bubbles?
I did it. Yeah. There we go. Wilson. Come on. Let me log. Yeah, there we go. Oh my God. Jesus, I can't log in with my other computer. All right, whatever. Wait, a meme is here. I didn't know anybody.
Is like Windows.
He's even waiting for us this whole time.
A meme is just like Windows.
Oh, right, man, yeah. Yeah, he's just hanging really out. Why did that? Okay, here we go. So, all right, Ameem, you think this is going to work? Okay, let me go get the release. This is an internal thing, so I can't show my internal Confluence. Because, wouldn't want to get fired, right, Scott?
That's true. Probably a good idea.
Okay, let me see. Other spaces. Okay, here we go. So, remind me, Scott. So we always upgrade the management cluster first. Then after you upgrade the management cluster, you've got N-1 compatibility. Then after you upgrade the management cluster, you do your workload clusters. Do you ever do them in parallel, or is it always serial for workload cluster upgrades?
Workload clusters you can do in parallel. There's no issue with that. What you do usually, you have to upgrade Tanzu CLI first. Then you upload the OVA to vSphere. The new one, make it into a template, yada, yada. And then you upgrade the management cluster. After that, you can upgrade all your workload clusters in parallel.
Yeah. All right, let's go. A meme is on PT.
Right, with the new Tanzu CLI through Brew and all that crap, it's, you don't really need to upgrade it. You just need to upgrade the plugins. So you just need to basically, Tanzu plugin group install whatever the newer version of the TKG packages are
for the CLI. That's true. You only have to upgrade the plugins.
Correct. Now, if it's a pre-release, then obviously internally you have to actually download the binaries or change the default whatever projects registry to the project staging within VMware, wherever the actual binaries are released in the meantime. In pre-releases, but GA releases, it's just through Tanzu CLI.
Yeah, so all right, let's go. Let's see what we can do here. So in our internal test beds at TK at VMware, we have this env.sh that sets up kubectl and all that stuff. All right, so let's see what I can do here. Okay, first let's see if I can upgrade my management cluster. Okay, so I'm going to do... Let's first make sure I've got pods. I've got a cluster. So here we go. kubectx. Yeah, so I've got a Windows machine and I got an Ubuntu machine. I'm going to switch over to my management cluster. kubectl get nodes. Okay. Here we go.
And this is on 126.5. Which version of TKG is this?
This is 2.3.
2.3?
And,
Okay.
and now we're going to try to upgrade to 2.4 and see what happens.
Which is 127.
Yeah.
Awesome. So yeah, so now you just
wait.
set.
127, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so let's see if this works. So we clear out the old bomb.
Yeah, and remove the bubble, which is blocking half the screen.
What bubble?
TKG workload cluster upgrades bubble.
Oh.
Wonderful. Now people can see what you're doing.
There we go. Yeah. I mean, what are you up to, man? Who said you could take off? Not me. We have 2 people watching, Scott. Why would anybody be watching us?
Yeah, try to zoom in a bit on the TMUX. Itika just said can't see anything.
Who can't?
Why did it become so narrow all of a sudden?
Here we go. Is that better?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, you know what I can do? I can open it up on my other machine so I can see it. Your channel, live. There we go. Okay.
But yeah, so what you're going to want to do is export those 2 additional variables and then the Tanzu plugin install, and that'll take a minute or 2 to download the plugins.
Yeah. All right, cool. Gitika.
And a meme.
Okay. There we go. All right. So Tanzu plugin clean.
Yeah, that you did. Now you need to do the next 2 exports.
Yeah. What is this VMware default thing?
This is for Tanzu CLI, basically because all of the new plugins for Tanzu CLI are stored as OCI images.
Yeah.
The default turns to projects registry VMwareCom. You have to tell it to use project staging so that you're able to pull the pre-release binaries.
Yeah, because we haven't published these yet. So this is all just setting it up so that when Tanzu CLI runs,
it looks for those values, basically. That's all.
Yeah, people need to know that. Tanzu CLI
and move the bubble again that's blocking half the screen. I'll say that 30 times probably today.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Hold on, let me say. Why don't I do this? Why don't I do one of these?
Perfect.
That's better, right? Nobody
because no one needs to see what's on the left one where you're just copy pasting from.
Yeah. Okay. Here we go. Okay.
And now you want the Tanzu plugin install -- group command.
Now let's see here. Let's see if it works. Okay. So now what we're doing is so does this mean that at this point I don't have any plugins? So if I do Tanzu plugin list, does that mean I have no plugins? Okay. I do still have plugins.
You only have the context-aware plugins because you're connected to a specific context, right? There's 2 types of plugins. There's the standalone plugins and the context-aware plugins in Tanzu CLI. The standalone plugins are the ones like the management cluster, telemetry. There's a few that are like base ones that don't come from a specific product. They're used for it, but need to be used to install it or to configure it.
Yeah.
Then like the Tanzu cluster plugin or feature or Kubernetes release come from being connected to a management cluster. A management cluster basically exposes that capability. And when you connect to that, when you add a context in Tanzu CLI against it, that automatically makes Tanzu CLI download those plugins locally.
But when I do Tanzu plugin clean, oh,
That cleans the standalone plugins, not the context-aware
I
plugins.
didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's another bubble, Scott. You're getting so many bubbles today. Tanzu plugin clean does not eliminate context aware plug. I didn't know that. And that I'm always running into weird stuff, and I never actually thought that that was why. I can't
Yeah.
believe there's 5 people watching this show. Like who's here and why? Um, okay, so I mean, that's more people than we used to get when we did Antrea Live, and we were actually
I
we actually
know. I did
and
a
we
few
actually
of
had a
those with
plan
you.
then, right? So, okay, here we go.
Awesome. So let's install them now, the plugins.
Oh, Tanzu plugin list. Yeah, I can do this. Okay, so this is gonna replace my standalone. This is gonna okay.
This
So
will install the standalone plugins that are needed based off of those exported registries that you set above.
Tanzu plugin.
So you can see this is installing isolated cluster, management cluster, package, pinniped auth, and secret.
But will it update the context ones?
No, because the context ones are going to come when you upgrade the management cluster.
Okay.
Those are brought in from the management cluster. So when you upgrade the management cluster's context will cause the CLI to upgrade the cluster plugins.
So the management cluster then has to read. 2 people left after I made fun of them for being here. I wonder who that was. What?
Yeah, so do a Tanzu plugin list now, Jay.
All right. I want to just say something to get it straight in my head. The Tanzu management cluster then must, when we exported these, something must be plumbing the values of these registries somewhere into the management cluster. Otherwise, it wouldn't know the right versions of the context-aware plugins to upgrade, right?
No, they're part of the controller that's running within. It's a controller running within the management cluster. It's OCI artifacts that are part of the release. So because this release is on project staging, it's just going to pull from there automatically.
Oh, so these plugins you're saying are server side. They're not even on the client.
They're in an OCI registry. They're in the project's registry of VMware. They're in VMware's Harbor, but they are part of a TKG release. They're part of the same repo that all things within TKG are pulled from. If you look at the BOM file, they're in the BOM.
Yeah, but okay. I'll ask this question after we do this. So, okay. Wait, what are we doing now?
Now, Tanzu MC upgrade.
Is it really
do you
that
have
easy?
the new OVAs in the vSphere environment?
I did not put the new OVAs in. Let me get them.
So you have to do that, otherwise it's gonna fail.
Let me get them. Hold on. Okay, let me grab this. Hold on. Here we go. Okay, I'm coming. All right. Cat, let me grab this. Grep OVA. Grep Ubuntu. Oh, wow. There's a lot to. Okay. Grep -v.
Grep 127. Grep 1.27.
Oh, yeah. Okay, there we go. I like this one. That one looks good to me. Oh, no, that's a YAML. This one looks like an Ubuntu to me. Yeah, that's what we want. All right, here we go. All right, let me grab this. So I'm grabbing the OVA. Blah, blah, downloading the OVA. You would normally do this from Customer Connect. Everybody left, Scott.
Yeah. So what are you doing now? You're downloading it locally?
Um,
Why aren't you just doing deploy OVA from the UI in vSphere? Why download and then upload?
I always download it and then I do govc to upload it.
You can. That's just a double upload, but that's fine. You can also, I believe, GoVC can import directly from a URL.
Oh, can it? I didn't know you could do that.
I'm almost 100% sure that GoVC can do that. PowerCLI can.
Oh, Geetika posted us on LinkedIn, so some people showed up, but then they dropped. Geetika, that's so sweet of you. Okay.
Let's see. I'm looking here at the GoVC docs because I think in GoVC, I think you can create from an OVA directly from a URL. I'm looking right now. Let's see.
Well, it's on its way up.
Yeah, I just wonder, like, overall, because it would be good to know in the future, and that way you can also be more efficient in the future. Let's see.
How do you mark it as a template? There's some way to govc mark it as a template. Oh yeah, then you could do this. Then you could do govc mark as vm.mark as template. Okay, so here we go. Mark as template. Okay, so now I find it. So I do govc find / grep ubuntu. All right, so then I do what?
You didn't upload it.
Oh, I didn't upload it yet.
It usually helps to do the import OVA.
Yeah, maybe I should. All right, here we go.
No, it's just govc import.ova.
Yeah. Okay, now this. Then I'm going to try to mark it as a template. And if I can mark it as a template, then I don't have to open vSphere. It's like some vSphere golf.
I believe, by the way, and you could check this, but I think that import OVA also accepts a URL and not just a direct path. So you could have just done govc import.ova HTTP.
Oh, cool.
I think so.
Should we try it?
Yeah.
Oh, you're right. It works. I mean, it worked as well as it might have.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. That's something we can be happy about. We can
exactly, which makes it much easier. You could easily, whatever. It makes it just a step easier and it's quicker because you don't need to download and then upload again. It just uploads directly from that URL.
You're right, Scott. Oh, okay. Here we go.
Cool. Now you need to mark it as a template. GoVC vm.mark as template in the name of the OVA. Of the VM, excuse me, which is just the name of the OVA minus, like without .ova.
This one.
Yes.
Okay.
Now that it's a template,
I think we can do it.
You can just do Tanzu, MC, upgrade.
Yeah.
Enter.
Here we go. Let's see if it works.
Oh no, I can't find QBarback proxy under the bomb.
It still is mad about that. That is like that. It's such a dinosaur of an error message, and it's always complaining about that. We got to get rid of that.
You see, because that's what happens, by the way, when you don't build the bomb from the actual software being deployed and build it on the side and then update it.
Oh,
If it was
yeah.
actually generated from what is in the cluster, you wouldn't have it can't find it.
Well, why did we? I'm trying to remember why we had Kubar back proxy. I think there was some intermediate period where
Kubar proxy was in all cluster API providers
yeah,
back in the day.
yeah, it was because it was in all the providers.
It was until V1 Alpha 4. I think in V1 Alpha 4 it was removed. In terms of like the API versions of Cappy. So
And
around
what
like
did
the
it?
one.
What did the Kubar back proxy allow us to do that we didn't need to do anymore?
QBarback proxy. QBarback proxy allows you to do a lot of things around like how to do authentication for an app using Kubernetes RBAC in like smart ways, like different ways of using QBarback for the RBAC of the operator itself and things like that.
Okay.
It's weird. I never really understood why anyone did it. But it basically allowed you to do like lookups from within the application on permissions of users and things like that.
Kitika, why don't you chat GTP that shit and paste it in the comments?
Chat Jippity?
Chat.
That's what it's called, no?
Jeez. Let's see how this thing is going. It's not okay. That's not bad. Let's see what's going on down here.
Yeah, so do kget machines minus ntkg system.
What is this K? Why does everybody do this? I
Why?
could never figure
Because
out why anybody would bother. All right.
no, minus ntkg system.
Hold on.
Kget machines minus ntkg system. You just got the workload clusters, which we don't care about. We're not upgrading it.
All right, here we go. Oh my god, that's too much. You're right. I should have just done -ntkg system. Okay, that's not so bad. It looks like it's doing something useful.
It's in provisioning state.
Okay.
It's provisioning now the control plane node. Once that upgrades, joins the etcd cluster, reaches quorum, deletes the old one. So the control plane will be upgraded. Then it will move on to doing the worker node.
All right, let's see. How long is it going to take?
It takes about, again, it depends. This is my guess, a nested ESXi environment, so the deployment is probably slow.
This is an Nimbus, yeah.
It's probably not that fast. In a regular environment, if it's not overly if it's not over provisioned and the network is fine, it should be about 2 minutes for a VM, and then another like 2 minutes or so for etcd to reach quorum. But in your case, it's probably going to be more. And I'm going to have a hard cutoff in 7 minutes. So we'll see. But this basically, so this will upgrade. What's going to happen is, Jay, is this is going to upgrade the control plane, then the worker. A bunch of packages are being upgraded as well. If I'm not mistaken, in this version, you're also upgrading the cluster class to the newer version as well. And then basically that will update your context-aware plugins. So you'll do a Tanzu plugin sync, which will look at the context and say, hey, I have a newer version of the cluster plugin that I should be using, and it's going to download the new version of the cluster plugin, for example. There you go. So by the way, if you saw there, the node, the machine is ready for the control plane, if you saw there. It is.
So far it looks happy to me.
Oh, it is happy so far. So basically it should be added as a node in a second.
Oh, the control plane's down. Okay, so it's rebooting, it looks like. Right.
Well, it added, by the way, can you remove the bubble because we can't see that lower screen?
Oh no, I did it again. Why can't the bubble go somewhere else?
No.
Okay.
This is why you do 3-node control planes, and then you don't have downtime when upgrading. Jay.
Let's switch to Nishad's face for our Yeah, this is a single node cluster. Single node
Exactly.
control
So
plane.
there will be issues like this, that the control plane will go down, but it should reconcile itself, hopefully.
All right. Okay, here we go. All right.
There.
So
Okay, so now
now
you see there's a new control plane node that was added.
wait, it was a multiple control plane nodes. And we
No,
still
it
had
was
demo.
one. There's now two. There's one worker node and two control plane nodes now.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, you're right. All right, so
Okay.
we're rolling this new one out.
Exactly. Once it reaches quorum and syncs up from etcd, then Cappy, specifically cluster
Oh, we got two. I
APIs,
never knew
control
you
plane.
could have two. I thought one of them would be dead before the other one. Okay.
It can't. The old one is up. The new one comes up. It joins the etcd cluster.
It has to join the cluster. Yeah.
It syncs. Once it's synced,
It
the
kills the
cluster
other.
API control plane provider is going to basically then mark the 126 DM that it's ready for deletion. And then that is going to go through the whole process of, whatever, cordoning the node,
Yeah,
and
that
changing it,
yeah, that
and
cords
removing
it.
it from the cluster, deleting the node, deleting the machine.
All right, let's see.
Once it's deleted, then cluster API is going to say, hey, I can move on to my worker nodes, and it's going to do the same thing for worker nodes. So it's going to create the new worker node. It'll be added, and then it will cordon and delete the worker node, the old worker node, and then you'll be upgraded.
Yeah. So I forgot this too. That when we do Cappy upgrades, there's an N+1 moment where you have an extra machine.
Correct. Now you can change that.
Is that true for the worker nodes too, or is it more aggressive with killing the?
I believe only for worker nodes that you can change that.
You can change
worker nodes by
nodes,
default is also one at a time. One of the challenges that came around with cluster class, I don't remember if this was already solved or it's being worked on upstream, but one of the challenges was we do have at the machine deployment level. If you do like kubectl get MD.
Yeah, it's like the strategy. It's called like rollout strategy or whatever, right?
But so do kubectl get MD.
Okay.
-o YAML. You only have one here. Doesn't matter if it's from
it's this strategy you're talking about.
Exactly. So the challenge is that the way that it always worked was that you could it would by default, and this is still the default in TKG, is that it's going to do one at a time and max unavailable 0. So it's going to do a rolling upgrade where it's going to do them one by one. It's going to add the new one only when it's added. It's going to remove the old one. For specific use cases, especially if like you're using the bring your own host cluster API provider, or if you're doing bare metal and things like that,
or GPU,
or you're just on edge, or GPUs, or
don't forget GPU, my favorite.
Yeah, exactly. GPUs, right? Whatever it is, Windows, if you're constrained in licenses, or I don't know what. Basically, what you can do is you can change the rollout strategy so that it first deletes a machine and then adds a new one. Obviously,
what is that called? There's a word for that, right? Like replace or something?
Yeah, I don't remember what
I don't know. It's something like, I don't know. I don't remember either.
You could do kubectl explain md.spec.strategy.
Good idea. Oh my God.
And if you remove the bubble, people could see what the explain shows.
Jesus.
And then do .type.
So rolling a .type. Oh my God. We need to, should we file an issue here?
They don't explain what types are
valid? The spec
valid?
doesn't give us the valid type. Let's file an issue on Cappy. github.com cluster API. I mean, that deserves a bug, I think. Here we go.
Yeah, it should be updated in the CRD's docs.
Yeah. All right, let me share this other screen then. You know, my favorite of these is when we get to file a bug against somebody. All
Have
right,
you ever had a live stream where you haven't filed an issue?
we always file one, don't we?
I think so.
Missing types for the deployment, for the machine deployment in the describe. Is it in describe? Yeah, this is great. Good idea, Scott, to run this. Okay. For folks doing things with i.e. GPU where there's resource constraints, it's important to know the alternatives.
Rollout strategies.
Yeah, rollout strategies. Okay.
Yeah, you have to put the cluster API version because this may have been already fixed. So just mention what version.
Oh, God.
Look at the bomb on the node.
Dash. I always do this. Dash. And
We aren't seeing it. We're just seeing the issue. So. Yeah.
Oh. Okay. I'll be back. Give me a second. Grab image. Okay, it's this. Yeah. All right. But not VMware, right? Here we go. Don't want to get in trouble. Here we go. It's that 1.4.5. Is that old?
Not
oh my
extremely.
God. Oh my God. They're going to make me fill all.
Cluster API isn't.
That's not too old, right? It's reasonable. Okay. We would have describe. Tell. The description would have valid rollout values since they are strongly typed. Okay. Yep. Submit new issue. There we go. We filed a bug.
Yay. And okay. I need to drop because I have another call.
All right. I'll try to finish this upgrade and see how it goes.
So basically, Jay, though, what you have, once this finishes, what you're going to have to do is do a Tanzu. So once that command finishes, a Tanzu MC upgrade, then do a Tanzu plugin sync, and then do a Tanzu cluster upgrade to the workload cluster.
Yeah. Tanzu plugin sync, Tanzu. Yeah, and then, well, that's going to be different because that's a Windows cluster, so I'm not even sure we're going to have time to do that. So it's going to be, I don't know. And we might... It might just be a thought experiment. But anyways, okay, thanks, Scott.
I mean, good luck with everything Windows.
Yeah, you can make you won't be able to make fun of me because you're leaving.
Exactly. I won't be able to make fun of Jay and Amim, unfortunately, today.
Yeah.
Bye, everyone.
And Amim's not here to defend himself. All right, see you, Scott.
Peace.
All right. Okay, it's just me now. We'll try to see. We're getting to the end here, but here we go. We did upgrade. The upgrade succeeded. Let's make sure. Yeah. Okay, everything looks happy, and we can see all the latest, the 1.27 pods are up and running. So I think this is a good place to sort of end the management cluster upgrade, and I think maybe I'll do another one where I upgrade the Windows workload cluster. Because I think that I'm going to have to play around with that because I have to run Image Builder, and I have to build the Windows OVA, and that's going to take like 45 minutes. But for folks that were interested in the Windows part, I will walk you through some stuff that might be useful because I just ran this for 126, and I don't think anybody has really presented anything about it yet. Let me see here. Tanzu Here we go. Yeah, this one. Here we go. So I'll walk folks through the Windows stuff. How do I do this? Present, stop screen, present, share screen. There it is. So this is a thing. This is kind of like a site that I sort of just kind of have that. It's called Tanzu Install Annotated. And it's kind of a really low level set of TKG documentation. And so it sort of has all of the logs and all the other things that you wind up seeing if you're debugging a low level TKG issue. All right, let's go. So when you create a Windows cluster, the first thing you do, this isn't something I think has been really presented, so I think I should probably share this. So when you create a Windows cluster, the first thing you need to sort of understand is what you're going to do is you're going to have this version value down here in your TKR or in your cluster YAML, right? Because we're talking post cluster class, right? So your cluster has a version associated with it, and that version then has to be associated with a particular OS image object, which is this object at the top here in the top right. Okay, so you got the OS image at the top right, and you've got your cluster definition on the bottom left here. Okay. And that version, right, like this Kubernetes version, right, has to map to the version here. Okay. And so you have a bunch, your TKR here, right? This is your TKR in the middle. And your TKR is going to have all these different OS images associated with it, right? And these OS images are all valid, right, for a given, like for example, this OS image, which is a Windows OS image object, that's a CRD, right? That's going to be valid. That's going to be valid for 1.26.5, right? So the TKR is the glue that connects your OS image back to your cluster version, right? I guess I should just put that in the comments. TKR is the glue connecting OS images, many, to clusters, right? So you might have multiple clusters. Maybe multiple of those clusters point to the same TKR, and those clusters, maybe one is a 1.26.5, the other is a 1.26.5, but one of them has Windows nodes, the other one doesn't. They both point to it. They both could point to the same TKR. They don't have to, but they could. And that one TKR could have Windows images in it, and it could have Linux images in it. And both of those are valid for 1.26. And then so how does it know? Well, when you create your workers, you could see here the TKG worker has an OS name equals Windows. So when this machine deployment gets created, the TKR gets queried for an OS image that's compatible with 1.26. Okay. Good. Well, you already have a 1.26 TKR, so it goes in the TKR and then it looks for the OS images that are associated with this, that have the Windows label on the OS label. And then once it finds those, it sends to CapV. CapV's launched so when CapV launches VMs, it's going to say, I want this VM's template to be the template inside of this OS image object, right? So that's a lot, but just when you think about Windows clusters, you're thinking, or any BYOI, but especially Windows, this is like critical, is TKR, OS image, cluster. Those three things those three things are the things that result in the vSphere running a different OS. So, running the right OVA. And so this page sort of describes the whole thing. So we'll walk through this really quickly. The Windows docs are here for 2.3, but I don't know if we have them up for two. Yeah, this is a pre-release that I'm showing here, so we don't have them for this release, but it doesn't matter because anybody watching this would be running 2.3. So, these workload clusters advanced Windows, that has the official docs for how you do this. The first thing that you need to know about Image Builder here is that you're ultimately running this make target, right? So you would download Image Builder. We release it. VMware releases it on Customer Connect. You can pull it from there. You can also run it in a container. And inside of Image Builder, there's a whole bunch of Windows specific stuff. And these are the variables that you wind up setting, right? So you have all these variables, and these are the inputs these are the inputs to Image Builder here, right? And what these do is they build your Windows OVA. Now let's assume you've already got your management cluster up. When you run TKG when you're creating a Windows OVA, the first thing you need to do is run this thing that I call the burrito. That's not the burrito. It's called the Windows Resource Bundle, right? All right. So the Windows Resource Bundle is a container that has all the Windows binaries in it. So you run this container, and it's got the kubelet.exe right in it. It's got antrea in it, whatever. And so when you run Image Builder, it pulls down these resources from this container that the container is running locally, like on your management cluster on a node port. Over this service is a node port, so you can access it off your management cluster's API server IP address. And so Image Builder goes and it reads all these. It goes and it queries this URL to grab all the binaries it needs. And then, so this is important. You need to make sure that you set this, you change the build version to match your current version. This would be 1.27. What are we on? Let's see. We're on 1.27. Yeah. So you'd set it to 1.27.2 or whatever. And after you set that value, right? So you can see that here. It's kind of like hidden away that we set that. After you set this value, I should probably modify this. Looks like a bug because we don't show the build version. So once you set the build version, I'll actually modify that right now. GitHub annotated. Let's just modify that while we're here. What are we doing? There we go. All right. Okay, that's there. Is there. And there. There. Okay, there it is. See, it's like hidden. I don't know what I did here. Wow, that's really weird. I think it's because I was using Termius again. And Termius like screws up your copy paste sometimes. Yeah. Here we go. Yeah. And then it's down here again. Oh gosh, this is all messed up. Yeah, here we go. Let's fix all these. Okay, we're fixing the unofficial docs. Good. Here we go. Okay, so this should be more readable now. So I'll update this. I love readthedocs.io. It makes such pretty docs that are easy to read. Okay, in a little bit that'll be better. So anyways, so you set that build version up here. And then you run this command. So this is a Docker command. I'll zoom in on it. Docker run. So what is this doing, right? So what this is doing is this is starting a local Docker daemon. This Docker daemon will then go and it will it mounts this JSON file, and then it's gonna reach out to vSphere. So you've got your vSphere credentials in here somewhere, and one of these JSON files, I forget which one, has the vSphere credentials. I think it's this one. And you this will create a VM in vSphere, like a Windows ISO from a Windows ISO, and the Windows ISO, it'll load it up, it'll put SSH keys on it, whatever it needs to do so that it can get in there, and it'll go and install a bunch of stuff. Copy the kubelet in there, run Windows updates, all that kind of stuff. And then when it's done, it'll, there's this, big Ansible dance that's done. And once that's done, that takes like 45 minutes. And then once that's done, these are just some troubleshooting things because it's easy to get the parameters wrong. You'll see this. So you get the OVA, and then this is all of the logs. Nobody would ever read this unless you had some problem and you wanted to know what was wrong with it. But this sort of walks you through all the things that happens. Like here's the part where the VM comes up. Here's all the Ansible tasks that get run. Then here's a little intermediate reboot phase that runs, right? So then you go to Cloud Init, successful. Okay, so then now let's talk about Cloud Init. So the reason we're going to talk about Cloud Init is because now you're making your cluster. The first thing that happens is this image has to boot on its own, and it has to connect to the API server, and so that's the whole cloud-based init stuff. So in Linux, it's Cloud Init. Windows, it's cloud-based init that does all the booting logic. And the main thing that happens is it goes and it gets this service account token. We have all this PowerShell inside of our Windows. So when Cappy runs and creates Windows clusters, it runs these post kubeadm commands that bootstrap. After it does a kubeadm join, it like bootstraps the node by doing things like, getting a service account token so that it can install antrea proxy, which is a replacement for kube proxy and stuff like that. And Siagitka. So then it gets this SA token, and it installs antrea. Then you have a CNI, and there's more troubleshooting going on here. This is a cloud provider issue that you can see, and this happens in cases where the node itself never properly reboots, and the node does not reboot properly. This is an interesting story. A meme had to help me figure this one out. The node does not reboot properly if TKG Windows clusters can't get service account tokens. That's because the post kubeadm ever command never completes. Right? This is really important. I'm going to write this down. So you got to know this. It's really important that the Windows node reboots, because until it reboots, it won't have a correct DNS name. You could see this DNS win VG OV whatever here. You have to have a correct DNS name for the cloud provider to sort of establish Windows. And that's important, because if the cloud provider doesn't acknowledge that Windows is ready, then there's no provider ID. And if there's no provider ID associated with the VM, with the Windows node, then Cluster API will never say that that VM, that Windows node is ready to be a part of the cluster. And so by definition, you will not have a cluster in that case. So you must have that provider ID on the node. So I guess it's kubectl get. Is it on the nodes? I think it's on the. Let me see. I always forget whether this is on the node or on the machine. Let's just look at a node and try to decide for ourselves. Yeah. So see this provider ID here? Oh, I'm not sharing this screen. Let me share it. So this provider ID. Let me go back to my terminal. Where's my terminal? I don't know where did I put my terminal. Here it is. Okay, so you see that provider ID. That provider ID, that's your cloud provider that gives it that ID. Right? So you got in every cluster, you've got this kubectl get pods -a grep provider. Oh. Cloud controller manager, that thing. That thing is entire job in life is to make provider IDs. Logs. It's like to go and do cloud specific reconciliation. Right? So this thing is setting provider IDs. This thing will not set a provider ID if you this thing will not set a provider ID up here. This thing will not set a provider ID unless unless the node has a correct DNS name. Windows nodes will not have a correct DNS name until they reboot. Reboot doesn't happen until you get the service account token. So those things all have to happen in the right order. We gotta do a new. I want a new face up here. What should we do? Let's do the bike. Yeah, that there's a bunch of antrea troubleshooting stuff, but we've been going for like an hour now, so I think that's good enough. That's probably good enough of an intro. So the things to remember about your Windows cluster is the TKR, right? TKR has to be connected to an OS image. We install antrea by default. That requires having a service account token pulled down during cloud base init. And because of that, there's special RBAC rules that you need to add for that token because the Windows node needs to have the ability to do kube proxy type stuff. The RBAC for the Windows node needs to be able to do that because we reuse the Windows node's RBAC. The kubelet RBAC. And then the third thing to know is that cloud provider ID requires that your Windows node reboots. And your Windows node has to reboot so it'll have the correct DNS name. Otherwise, the cloud provider won't think that it's valid and won't annotate the node as having a provider ID, and then CAPI will not accept the cluster. And so keep those three things in mind. I'll add that at the bottom. 3 things. 1, TKR connects you to the Windows OS image. 2, T2 service account token is pulled down during cloud base init. 3, cloud provider vSphere cloud control pulls needs Windows reboot to see the right DNS name. Those are the 3 things. Oh, it cut me off. Those are the 3 things you need to remember about Windows clusters on TKG. That's what you got to know. The rest of it you can get from the docs. But those are the 3 things that, if you don't know those, they could really burn you. All right, I'm out of here. Thanks, Scott. Thanks to Terra Sky for hanging out. They are my favorite TKG install people to hang out with. They know it better than I do, for sure. Thanks, everybody.